Welcome everyone to our special webinar today. We'll be getting started in just about a minute at the top of the hour. Thank you. Welcome everyone to our webinar today, Orchid Specialty High Net Worth powered by Appulate. This is an Appulate training session, so we'll show you exactly how to use Appulate to submit to Orchid for that homeowner submission. Some webinar logistics before we get started. Due to the size of the webinar, attendees will be muted. We do want to hear from you, so as you have questions, please type them into the GoToMeeting side panel in the questions section. And at the end, we'll have a Q&A, and we'll go ahead and allow some time for Charlie and myself to go ahead and answer those questions for you. So again, so you don't forget them as you have those questions, go ahead and type them in the GoToMeeting side panel in the questions section. With Q&A and all, we anticipate this meeting will last less than 45 minutes. I will be one of your presenters today, Vanessa Dulier-Camara, the VP of Operations at Appulate, and I'm joined by Charlie Graham of Orchid here today. Charlie, did you want to say a few words here?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining the webinar. We're very excited to have you on board today. As Vanessa said, my name is Charlie Graham. I am Orchid's High Net Worth Business Development Executive. I've been in the insurance industry for about 30 years, with the last 12 years spent exclusively on the exciting high net worth marketplace. So assisting agents with placing these very important clients with a high net worth carrier who offers the level of protection and service that you and your insured expects. So this is my priority, my goal, and that of our entire high net worth team. So who is Orchid? Orchid opened its doors in 1998 as a Florida-based managing general agent, providing excess and surplus lines options. With significant growth, Orchid became a well-known leader in the field of coastal cat-prone properties. In 2016, Orchid wanted to expand to the Northeast and acquired Platinum Partners, a wholesale brokerage firm focused exclusively on high net worth personal lines. Today, enterprise-wide, we are on pace to write $250 million in written premium. We're licensed in 50 states, and we have 35 carrier relationships. So who are our carriers, our high net worth carriers that we can offer to your agency? At this time, Orchid is proud to partner with Appulate to offer you access to the industry's leading providers of affluent personal lines insurance. The carrier quotes available through Appulate are with AIG, with NatGen Premier, with Chubb, and we are a Chubb Cornerstone agent, which is Chubb's highest echelon of agents. And also, for those of you who might be in the Northeast, we also have the Andover companies, and their products are available in New Hampshire, Maine, Massachusetts, and Rhode Island. With a high net worth account, we obviously have the homeowners. Typically, our carriers can start at $500,000, and then go up to the sky's the limit. We can also write valuable articles. Carriers like Chubb, AIG, NatGen Premier, they like the unique collections, fine arts, jewelry, you name it, they're pretty much willing to write it. And also an umbrella policy, carriers such as AIG and Chubb can go up to 100 million for an umbrella. The umbrella is written in conjunction with the home. The same with the auto. It can be written in conjunction with the home. And carriers such as AIG and Chubb really do the very high-end vehicle very well. They offer the coverages that a high net worth client would want for their Lamborghini, their Maserati. It doesn't have to be an exotic car such as these. It can be your everyday Ford or Chevrolet. You're going to get those same great coverages, but they are very willing to write the exotic vehicle. Other ancillary products that we can offer with our high net worth clients would be primary and excess flood, yacht. With some of our carriers, we can write standalone jet skis up to mega yachts. If you're in a state such as Florida or in the Gulf, the appetite is going to be a little more restrictive in those areas. But in states with lakes and other coastal areas, we really are able to utilize AIG and Chubb rec marine programs. And then specialized coverage such as identity theft, employment practices liability, a number of the ancillary products and endorsements that a high net worth client might need to round out their insurance package. And this is our dedicated team. So our team, we sit in Peabody, Massachusetts. This is all we do. Our high net worth division here at Orchid, we just specialize with admitted high net worth carriers, so we know them very well. If you aren't familiar with a high net worth, if you don't typically do them frequently, is what I'm trying to say, you can really count on us to be your go-to resource. Some links here for you if you're submitting for a new business quote. If you want to email us the Accord app, you can certainly do that. Obviously, we like getting them through Appulate. It makes our life easy as well as yours. Any change requests, billing questions, claims, we've got you covered with the special inboxes for those particular questions, or you can simply call our main number and someone from our high net worth team will reach out. Becoming a partner with Orchid is very easy. If you haven't signed up, when you click on that request to bind button, you're going to see a pop-up dialog box that will be generated, and then you can click Get Appointed. We're going to get that processed and get you all signed up so that you can bind the account that you're looking to bind. Our goal here is to expose existing Appulate members to a wide variety of admitted high net worth carriers and products. What's in it for you? Appulate retail agents nationwide will have the opportunity to grow your high net worth book of business by offering your affluent insureds access to the industry's leading providers of admitted and non-admitted personal lines insurance. So we all know that today insureds expect instant gratification. We get that, and we understand your need for the best quote turnaround time possible. So partnering with Appulate gives us the ability to make this happen for you. Our highly skilled and knowledgeable and responsive account managers will keep you coming back to Orchid for quote after quote. Growing your high net worth book has never been so easy as now with Orchid and Appulate.
Thank you, Charlie. Really well said. I'd like to just take a moment before we get into our live demonstration here, for those of you that are new, to just fill you in on how Appulate fits into this picture. Appulate is a technology company that serves the insurance industry. And for agents, we empower you to expand your markets, automate your workflow, and save each agent time and money in that process. Now, of course, we really rely on technology more than ever, and Appulate is a very important addition to your tech stack, or in other words, your current technology tools that allow you to compete in this market. So Appulate's Producer Connect suite has been able to save agents individually over 25 hours per month and over $7,000 per year. And again, that's per agent. Now today, again, we're going to be focused on one specific thing, on easy submissions with our partner Orchid. Now with our partnership, it allows you to build a relationship with Orchid, meaning you can actually get a quote before becoming appointed. And should you want to move forward with your request to bind, the appointment process, as Charlie mentioned earlier, is all built into the Appulate system. Submitting to Orchid makes it easier for you through Appulate so that you don't have to rekey the information. But as Charlie mentioned before, it also streamlines that process for the Orchid team so that they can get you a quote back as quickly as possible. So that's the goal here with this submission in Appulate. So I'm going to get right into our live demonstration. I'm going to do that by pulling open an Accord form, a homeowner's Accord Form 80 that I have completed in a PDF. You may have it in a PDF as you see it on my screen, or you may have it in your agency management system. One of the perks for Appulate is that it's system agnostic. It can work with any agency management system. All you have to do is locate your Accord form and Appulate it. In other words, wherever you have your Accord form, simply print it to the Appulate uplink printer option. It will be listed there along with your home or your office printer. This takes just a minute to install on your desktop, or less than a minute actually, and we'll make sure to go over that at the end during setup. So print your completed Accord form to the Appulate uplink printer option so that you don't have to rekey all of that information that you have on your Accord form. However, if you don't have an Accord form filled out, you can certainly start directly in Appulate, and I'll show you that a little later on in the demonstration. So here we are on the first screen of Appulate. It's asking you to verify the line of business. This is homeowners. We'll go ahead and click continue. And on this next page, you'll see that it created the insured, Sandy Smith, with the information that was on the Accord form. It created the line of business, and it bridged over all of the Accord data. So we can see here that all of the information from the Accord form has been bridged over. The first step here is to add Orchid as our market. So we'll go ahead and under the Smart Q&A section, there's a market list. Click on Orchid. Once you click Orchid, you'll see the sub-markets that pop up. These are the markets that Charlie explained to you earlier. These are the markets that they're going to be submitting to on your behalf. If you are appointed with these markets and you would like for Orchid to not submit to them, you could simply unselect them. That's why we give you the options here to select or unselect these sub-markets. Also, these directly impact the questions that are being asked for the submission. So if you happen to know that a certain market is going to decline this and you want to avoid answering those questions down below in the SMART questionnaire, you can do that easily by, again, unselecting one of these submarkets, the appropriate submarket. If you're uncertain, you can just leave them all checked. So to the right-hand side of Orchid's name, we have a letter indication. This will be your best friend throughout the submission process. This will tell you what questions are missing and required. The goal is to have those required questions completed, turn this into a green A, so that we have a submit button that we can click on. You're not able to click on the submit button until you've fulfilled the requirements. So the information from the Accord form has been bridged over, so you don't have to rekey it. Now it's just looking for any additional questions that Orchid will need in order to quote for you. So we can look for those. They have a red asterisk next to them. We know exactly how many of those are left to answer because it will reflect that number at the top of this section. Let me go back over there. So it looks like we just have 4 questions total to answer. And we can do this just sort of going section by section and answering the questions with a red asterisk, or we can use the live links in the SMART questionnaire. So those are live links. If we click on them, it will take us directly to where that question is being asked, and we can answer it on here without, or making sure that we don't skip over those. All right, so we have one left here in the coverage history section. Now, based on how you answer certain questions, questions may be eliminated or questions may be added. So this is to make the questionnaire as efficient as possible. So anything that is not required or relevant will be removed for you. The questions that are required are the only ones that need to be answered. So if you would like to just see those, you can click on this required unanswered only button, and it will just show you the questions that are required. There will be some questions there that are generic for homeowners, and if you feel like you want to answer those to give Orchid a bit more insight, you're welcome to. But again, the required questions are what we're going after because we need to get this green A for accepted and this green submit button that we can click on. So once we fulfill the requirements, we can go ahead and do that. I'll go ahead and click submit. The status will change to say submitted. So if you're ever unsure as to where you're at in the process, again, you can take a look at the status or the letter indication up here. And Charlie and her team will be notified. They will get to work on that as quickly as possible. And you will get your quote back in Appulate. You don't have to keep logging into Appulate. Don't worry, you will receive email notification. So Charlie, can you tell us a little bit about the turnaround time?
Sure. So turnaround time, we really try very hard to return a quote within 24 hours. Sometimes we need to get the underwriter involved, and when that happens, we do we could need to add a few hours to that time. So within 48 hours, I think is a safe time frame to give you.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, so for the purposes of this demonstration, Charlie's going to go ahead and upload a quote for us now so that we can take a look at what that process looks like. So once the quote comes back to us in Appulate, I'll show you how you can open it up. I'll share with you how you can share it with your insured, and if you'd like to move forward, how to request to bind and become appointed with Appulate. So Charlie, let us know once that's done, and we'll go ahead and refresh the page here and continue on with the demonstration.
Okay. Okay, the quote has been released.
Thank you, Charlie. So we'll go ahead and refresh the screen here. Again, you will receive email notifications, so you don't have to keep logging back into Appulate. Once you receive that email notification, the email will actually contain a link. And if you click that link, it will take you right back to this insured file. So here you are, the quote prepared. Quote prepared is the new status. And the quote shows up directly under the market. So you could see that we have this Sandy Smith quote here. We could just double click it and it will open up into a PDF that you can review. So you can review that here from within Appulate. You can always extract the PDF if you'd like. And of course, you can share it with your insured right from within Appulate, as I mentioned earlier. So to do that, scroll to the right. On the right-hand side, there's these three dots. If you click on it, it says send by email. If you choose that option, it will allow you to send this to your insured so that they can review this. Once you've discussed this with your insured and you would like to move forward, there's steps built into Appulate so that you can request to bind and become appointed with Orchid if you're not already appointed. So for this, we need, or Orchid, I should say, needs a few additional questions from you in order to request to bind. So same process as before. We want to get this to the green color so that we can actually click on this button. And to do that, we have to answer the missing and required questions. So it's showing us here at the top of the page how many we have. It looks like we have about 4 to answer before we can click on that request to bind button. So I'll go through this as quickly as possible. Again, you can just go through this section by section or use the live links to take you directly to where any of these are missing and required. For the contact roles, Charlie tells me that they are looking for inspection to be entered in here. So I'll go ahead and choose that as my contact role and then enter in the name. All right, one last question here. Okay, so at this point, we have answered all of the missing and required questions. We would like to click on request to bind. It seems as though it's still orange. So when we click on it, it's going to tell us why. So we've answered the rest of the questions, but notice that we are not yet appointed with Orchid. And I did mention that this part is built into the process for you. So you can actually get a quote with Orchid, talk about it with your insured before even deciding to become appointed with Orchid. So if you're insured and you would like to move forward and you're not yet appointed, during the request to bind, it will pop the screen up, and all you have to do is get appointed, click that button there, and it's going to ask you to load a series of documents and sign the appointment agreement, which are required to become appointed with Orchid. So the status you can see here says not appointed. Please add documents. I've already added them for you. Otherwise, you would see a list here. It kind of just checks it off as you go. The important thing to note is that when you're loading it, and it's just, uploading files from your desktop, once you're loading it, it is going to ask you to choose the type. Be sure that you choose the appropriate type from the drop-down menu because it is sort of a checks and balances. So you do have to mark it as, current agency E&O in order for it to check it off that list and allow you to continue to move forward with your appointment request. The appointment agreement is done electronically with electronic signature in Appulate, so you don't have to leave Appulate for that. All of this is done through Appulate. So once you sign the agreement and upload the appropriate documents, you can click on Request Appointment. You can see the status changes accordingly to say Pending Request, and it does trigger a notification to Charlie and her team. She and her team will go through this, review all of the information, and if they are ready to make you an appointed agent, they will note that in Appulate. That will trigger a notification to you. You'll receive that via email, and you'll see that your status will update to say appointed, and it will allow you to then continue on with your requested request to bind. So Charlie is going to go ahead and do that for us now so that we can continue on with the demo. Charlie, let us know once that's taken care of.
Okay, that is accepted. And I will just mention that Orchid does not have any premium volume requirements. You can write one policy with us or the sky's the limit, but there is no volume requirement in order to work with Orchid.
That's great, Charlie. Thank you. And thank you for going ahead and marking us as appointed so that we can continue on with the demonstration. So you can see the status there has been updated. And again, you will receive email notification. The email will contain a link that will take you right back to the insured file. But if you're in Appulate and want to locate that insured file, simply click on or type in the name of the insured at the top here, or use one of those filters so that you can locate it. So we were working on Sandy Smith. I'm going to click this drop down and go right back to the homeowner section. Okay, so we now have a green request to bind button, which means that we fulfilled the requirements. We answered the additional questions asked for the request to bind. We have become appointed with Orchid, and now we'll go ahead and click on request to bind. So the status changes accordingly. We now see that our status is requested to bind. This triggers a notification to the Orchid team, and they will go ahead and continue on with the bind. Once it has been bound, they will mark it as bound in the Appulate system. You will receive email notification. The status changes to say bound, and your policy docs will be loaded into Appulate. It changes the interface a little bit so that you're not confused. It's not going to show you the quoting screen here. Instead, it's going to show you that it's bound and show you all of the policy documents. So this is from start to finish how to get a quote and request to bind and become appointed with Orchid, starting from an accord form. Now, I did mention before that if you did not have an accord form, you can start directly from within the Appulate system. So let me show you that here quickly. The very first page that you get logged into in Appulate has this Add New Customer or Prospect button on the top left-hand side. If you click on that, it will ask you to enter in the insured's name and click Continue. It'll ask you to choose a line of business. Again, this is homeowners. Oh, let me go back here. So to Sandy Smith. I missed a step here, add customer or prospect. So this is important. So this is personal, right? It's personal homeowners, not business. So on this screen, you do have to make sure that you mark it as personal, then enter in the insured's name and click continue. And then on this next page, the homeowner's line of business will appear. So you do have to choose personal, enter in the insured's name, and then choose homeowners as a line of business and click continue. And then the screens from here are the same as they were before. So first step, add Orchid, and then fulfill the requirements and click submit. The only difference here again is that we started directly from Appulate, so the information is from the accord form wasn't bridged over. You're typing everything directly into Appulate. Okay, from here the same process remains. So click submit. If you're not yet appointed, it will prompt you through that, and it will also prompt you through the request to bind. So I want to go ahead and go over setup now so that everybody on the call can walk away from this today and start submitting to Orchid using Appulate if they'd like. Simply click on or go to the sign-in page, appulate.com/sign-in, and enter in your Appulate credentials. Everyone that was invited to this webinar already has Appulate credentials, so if you don't remember what your password is, you can click on this Forgot Password link and sign in. If this email invitation was forwarded to you and you truly don't have an Appulate account, you can always sign up for one. Appulate is absolutely free to use with our partners like Orchid for the submission process, so you can create an account in just minutes. We have hundreds of thousands of agency locations in Appulate already, so chances are your agencies are already or hundreds of thousands of agents in the Appulate system. So chances are your agency already has an account created and you just need to be added as a user. But if you ever have any issues logging into your account, you can always email support@appulate.com. So once you sign in here, you can go to the tools section and download Uplink. So under Tools, download Uplink. Uplink is the tool that you'll use to bridge over an existing accord form into Appulate so that you don't have to rekey it. As I mentioned before, it takes less than a minute to install on your desktop. So you can come right in here, choose any agency management system if you have one, and then click on Download Uplink Driver. This will install on your desktop as a print driver. So if you go to print a document, you will see Appulate Uplink listed as a printer option. The other thing you'll want to do for setup is go to Markets and Selected. Make sure that Orchid is listed as one of your selected markets. Otherwise, you won't be able to do a submission for them. So if it's not listed under Markets and Selected, you can go to the Markets Available tab and search for Orchid. Once you've located Orchid, you could click the plus sign on the right-hand side to add them to your list of selected markets. If you need to add users to your account, that can be done by an admin under Setup and Users. So you can add users, edit user information, and deactivate users. There's also company settings there that allow you to control visibility and other tools or features available in Appulate. And again, if you ever have any questions or issues, you can always email support@appulate.com. So that's all it takes for setup. Just make sure that you have your credentials so you can log into Appulate. Make sure that you download the uplink tool if you plan to bridge over a core data so you don't have to rekey it. And then make sure that that Orchid is listed as one of your selected markets. So with that, I'd like to take this back to our closing slides, and then we'll go ahead and open it up for any questions. Charlie?
Thanks, Vanessa. That was great. So I will be sending a PDF copy of the webinar and some carrier materials out to all of you who registered for this webinar. And then we hope that you choose Appulate and Orchid for your high net worth quotes. We're really excited to work with you. Feel free to reach out to me at any time with questions about high net worth accounts, quotes you're considering sending over to us, anything. I'm happy to respond and help. So our Appulate Appulate HNW at orchidinsurance.com is also an inbox where you can reach out for additional help about Appulate specifically. Our office, our high net worth office here in Peabody, Mass is 978-548-3797. Feel free to reach out. We've got a wonderful group of account managers that are ready and willing to help.
Thank you, Charlie. So if anybody has any questions for Charlie or for myself, feel free to type them in the GoToMeeting side panel in the question section. We'll go ahead and read those out loud and answer those questions for you. If you prefer to raise your hand, you're welcome to. We can unmute you. And of course, if you think of any questions after the webinar, you can always email Charlie. The contact information, as she mentioned, is up on the screen. Or if you have any questions related to Appulate, you can always email, again, support@appulate.com. Last call for any questions. There is a hand raised. Give me just one moment and we can unmute Jonathan. Jonathan,
Okay.
Go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Hello, Charlie. It's John Steinberg.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm very excited about what I see here. So thank you very much.
Good. You're very welcome. Thank you for joining.
My question is, from Appulate, how do you get the information from Appulate back into your operating system? I use agency software, and I just wanted to find out if there's a way to get the information out of your program and put it underneath my customer in my operating system.
That's a great question. Thank you for asking, Jonathan. So you certainly can pull any data out of Appulate, any forms, into a PDF and load it back into your agency management system that way. Currently, we don't have integration from Appulate back into the agency management system. Currently, it's a one-way street to where you bridge the data from your management system into Appulate, which becomes sort of the submission management system, if you will. It is definitely something that we have our eyes on, and we're happy to talk with you some more to see if that might be a possibility here in the near future.
Okay, because I'm assuming that you're going to want pictures of these places too. So, is there somewhere in there where we can upload the pictures of the homes?
Yes, so great question. Let me show you how that can be done here in Appulate. We'll go back to our Sandy Smith example. All right, so there is a Docs tab here on the left-hand side. So everything that we were doing before was in this Smart Q&A where it asks all of your questions. But in the Documents tab, it allows you to upload any documents related to this insured file.
Okay, great.
Great question.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you, Jonathan. Good to hear from you.
Any other questions? Looks like we have, let's see, another hand raised. Bear with me. Oh, not anymore. Okay. It looks like we've gone through all of the questions for today. So on behalf of the entire Appulate team, I'd like to thank you all for the time today. I hope that this webinar was helpful and informative. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us as well to talk about Orchid.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having us. We're excited about this relationship with Appulate, and thank you to all the agents who signed on today to hear about it.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.